This morning, we are digging into the changes that we are seeing in Florida's housing market. This year, we saw home prices reach record highs in a market that used to once be considered affordable. Now, many are wondering when and if, in fact, those home prices will ever come down here in Florida. That's where we bring in our own Keely McCormick. She has been digging into this question. Keely, a lot to unpack here.
Vanessa, it's no doubt we've seen home prices rise at a rapid rate across the state. It's a clear picture in this report by Redfin showing that line skyrockets. This year, prices are up about 45% from 2020, and comparing it back to 2017, prices are 85% higher. What goes up has to come down, right? So I asked the local realtor when we will see that happen and if it'll cause the Florida housing market to crash.
We're not expecting to see a crash based on the trends.
Those trends showing people moving to the Sunshine State at a record rate, and that's not slowing anytime soon.
Tampa Bay is expecting roughly 14% growth in the next 10 years in their population.
So the demand for a home remains strong and supply is somewhat low as Hillsborough County still sits in a seller's market.
Ultimately, it's a supply and demand situation. So right now, we're seeing about 1.3 months of supply in Hillsborough County. A buyer's market is technically more than 6 months of supply.
That's the key factor that will keep the housing market from crashing, and the biggest difference from the historic crash in 2008.
There was a huge oversupply of housing 15 years ago. Today, there's a huge shortage.
A shortage of homes available in Florida as more people are making the move to call the Sunshine State home. And construction of new homes is not keeping up with the number of people moving here.
The last few years has been crazy, to say the least.
While the market won't crash, it will correct itself. Johnson told me he expects to see prices level out soon.
When we look at it through time, it'll probably be a lateral move. When we look at it on a graph, that it'll be 3-4 years of relatively flat or slightly downward prices.
He says we will really start to notice the prices slowing down in the next 30 to 90 days. But it will not be a drastic downfall, which means people will still be paying a pretty penny to buy a home in Tampa.
While we might see a slight downturn in prices, they're still going to be very high relative to our income. So I think what we're going to be talking about, Keely, going forward will be the unaffordable housing crisis of 2022 as opposed to the housing crash in 2007.
And Swoboda, the realtor I spoke with, said she's already starting to see prices level out in the Tampa area. And she told me she thinks some people are waiting for interest rates to drop before they buy. But she expects to see some of those buyers get back in the game and purchase homes come early 2023.
Interesting. And Keely, there are a lot of people out there. Unfortunately, they couldn't just wait for the market to cool down. So definitely a daunting time for them to buy a house right now. But you actually talked to a few first-time home buyers, right?
Yes, I did. Mackenzie Elliott and her partner just bought their first home in Tampa. They started searching in August. She told me she didn't really know what to expect trying to buy a house in such a hot housing market. Take a listen.
We were really wanting to buy a house, and it was a long time coming. And by the time we started looking this past August, we had already seen the past year or two during COVID make it rather difficult for home buyers, but we were thinking we might as well just try to start looking.
She told me all the attention on the housing market allowed them to make informed decisions during their search. After a month of looking at houses, they made an offer, and now that is the place they call home. She said it was a lot smoother of a process than she expected. Her advice to other first-time home buyers is to do your research and make informed decisions so you can find the best option for you. In the studio, I'm Keely McCormick, ABC Action News.